Hello, Life Groups. Thank you so much for gathering today. We started a brand new series this past weekend called Simon Says. Now, Simon, you're going to hear him in a couple different ways. It's going to be Simon Peter, you're going to hear him as Peter, or even maybe as Simon. They're all the same person. But this past weekend, we read a story out of Luke chapter 5. And in this story, Jesus is teaching by this lake, and the crowds are gathering around Jesus. And Jesus looks to the side, and he sees two boats that were left by some fishermen who were off to the side cleaning their nets. And so Jesus gets into one of the boats, and he asks Simon Peter to take the boat a little ways away from the shore, and he began to teach the crowds from the boat. But then after Jesus is finished teaching, he tells Simon to go into the deeper water and to throw his nets out for a catch. But Simon had been out fishing all night, and he responds with some skepticism. He says, we've worked all night and didn't catch anything. But he also says, but because you say so, I will do what you're asking. So when Peter takes his nets into the water, they begin to catch so many fish that the nets begin to break, and all they can do is call to their fishing partners in and ask them for help, and they begin to fill both boats with so many fish that the boats begin to sink. And in response to this miracle, Peter falls to his knees and says, Lord, go away from me, for I am a sinful man. But Jesus responds, don't be afraid, because from now on, you're going to fish for people. And so they pull the boats up to the shore, and they leave everything behind and follow Jesus. Now, in this story, there were three kind of big ideas that Pastor Derek talked about, and three takeaways. And the first one was this idea of Peter's willingness to say, because you say so. Peter's willingness to obey and trust even when he's hesitant, even when the experiences from the night before tell him there's not going to be any fish to be caught, or even when he doesn't understand the big picture, there is trust. And that is something that we can certainly learn from. The second thing is Peter recognizes his own sinfulness. He says, I am a sinful man. And in response to this miracle, Peter recognizes who he's with. He recognizes Jesus for who he really is. And in recognizing Jesus for who he really is, he also recognizes his own sinfulness. But instead of condemning Peter or embarrassing Peter, Jesus actually gives him a higher calling. Instead of catching fish, it's catching people. And these were fishermen. They were common, uneducated men, and there was nothing really extraordinary about them, but God chooses to use them in extraordinary ways. And the last thing was, in response to this higher calling, these men dropped everything and followed Jesus. They laid down their nets. They laid down their source of income, their provision, and their livelihoods and followed Jesus, trusting God and surrendering their futures to follow Jesus. Enjoy your discussion today.